That's great.
I think that's why we often give up, is because we think of, the end result is where we're supposed to be. It's like, no. God's called you today to do this. He's put this on your plate today.
And I look over our clock that's speeding up on how long this is.
Wow.
It's an hour and 37 minutes.
It's long.
You know that's going to happen. We're going to cut out where Lily announced she was pregnant. When things and people are used as they are created, it maximizes the potential of impact by the thing in person.
These upcoming events that people are going to want to know, and if they log off early, they'll miss them. So maybe we could put those at the beginning.
Maybe.
Did you feel that? Something just happened that many of us take for granted. Another year is officially in the past. A chapter is closed. And now we look ahead to a new year. The mistakes, missteps, and missed opportunities of the past give way to hope, excitement, and joy for the new life God gives us, pursuing Christ with each new dawn. Through His grace, we get the chance to reset the clock, to forget what lies behind and strain forward to what lies ahead. As we work, play, rest, and worship, we know His mercies are new every morning. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength, arriving at next year's end through His faithfulness. So whatever we do this year, let's give it to God, seeking His will, trusting His plan, and taking this opportunity to restart.
Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about how to find people's whys and purposes. One of the experts in this is Lily over here. How we doing, Lil?
I don't think I'm an expert.
Oh, you are.
I'm good, though. Thanks.
You've lived a long life, and you got a lot to say. Yeah.
I also brought my Bible, so I'm here to do business.
Wow. Yeah, you know you're going to get in trouble when you got a Bible like that with tabs on it.
So
Show
nice.
everybody the tabs.
Did it come with the tabs?
No, I did it.
You
was
put tabs
so
on it?
relaxing.
Oh, my
It was one of the
gosh.
most relaxing things I've done. It took me a long time.
That stuff, that's borderline like stresses me out when I look at that.
You know what? When we were younger, the Bibles came with tabs.
That's crazy.
Baby, we didn't even introduce you. This is my wife
Hi,
of
Holly.
23
Hey,
years.
everybody.
Do you have a Bible with tabs?
I used to. I don't anymore.
Yeah, I feel like that's an old person thing,
I like it.
which confirms what we were saying about Lily. Dwayne, do you have a Bible with tabs?
I do not.
Yeah. Really, all I associate that with is like grandparents.
I had mine when I was young.
You did?
Because
Your daughters
helped
have
me.
them tabs.
I was
Historic
going to
does.
say it was more like it was my kids' Bible. I could learn the Bibles faster, or the books of the Bible.
Please write in the chat if you have a Bible with tabs. All right, Lily, close your Bible. Here's what's going to happen. This is good old-fashioned, Holly just alluded to, I would never call it this, sword drills.
I would every day.
That is
sword drills.
That is
Oh,
ridiculous.
she's going to destroy me because she
I've
has
never done
tabs.
this.
No, we're going to find out, Dwayne. That's what we're going to
Okay.
find out.
Is
We're going to
tabs
find out
really-
if tabs actually help you or
Oh,
confuse
man.
you.
No, they're hard to see.
Let's put Lily and Dwayne on the screen.
I'm going to see if I can do it in the digital Bible.
Oh, my gosh. That's cheating. Just Google it. We're going to go to the easiest one. John 3:16. Go. Go. Dwayne still had his hands together. Oh, my goodness. Let's go. We're going to find out who can get to it the fastest.
For God so loved the world
John.
that He gave His only Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish but have eternal life.
Wow. Dwayne, did you even get to John 3:16?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
But I said it first.
You did, right. Okay.
You gotta be faster, Dwayne.
We're going to play back what we just witnessed. I said go, and Dwayne has still got his hands in a prayer moment here. On John 3:16, go. I don't know what. I don't know if you were praying for divine.
So I wasn't cheating.
All right, here we go. It's best of three, obviously, around here. All right, here we go. Hands up. Okay, here we go. Let's go to Psalms 117. 1. Ooh, that's somewhere in the middle. Lily is she's not even using her tabs.
Praise the Lord, all nations. Glorify Him, all peoples.
Dwayne,
You're faster than me.
Clutch right there.
I
Tied
noticed
it
that
up.
one of my pages is bad.
Yeah, she did.
It totally distracted me.
It totally did.
got
She was an
distracted.
Esther.
Yeah,
Esther was bent.
I gotta
Wow.
make sure that gets.
All right, I didn't see this coming, Holly, that this would be a tie. To win it, Acts 13:22, go. Oh, Dwayne's slow again on the uptake. His hands are in the air when I said it.
Acts 13.
Yeah, 13:22.
Do I get to play?
13:22.
Do I get to
It
play?
says,
I'm already highlighted.
after removing him, he raised up
And
He
when
raised up
had
David
removed
as their
him-
king and
Oh.
testify about him. I have found David, the son of Jesse, to be a man after my own heart, who will carry out all my will.
Good
Boom!
job, Dwayne.
Dwayne wins. Tabs
Good
don't
job.
work.
That's hard.
We just blew that. We
I don't
debunked
think
tabs
it's
in
the
your Bible.
tabs. I don't think it's the tabs.
Just FYI, I had it highlighted.
Dwayne, you're a Chick-fil-A guy, right?
Ooh.
I am.
I love
sounds
am.
delicious.
It does sound really good when I say that. Oh.
No, you shouldn't eat that.
We
If you're
can do
feeling
that.
sick.
We're fine.
Okay, I'll go.
This woman. Okay, Chick-fil-A. You know when you go there and you got to get
Sounds good to him.
you got to eat in, and you go to get ketchup or whatever sauce you want, and they got those little round containers. You know what I'm talking about? I think we got a picture
Yeah,
of one
to
for
put
you.
ketchup in.
This put ketchup
That's
in
not
that.
a Chick-fil-A. That's a McDonald's. That's not Chick-fil-A.
Oh, you're saying no
Dwayne.
way, no go.
Well, remember Dwayne worked for
No.
Chick-fil-A for a long time.
I feel like
so
that's
he knows.
Chick-fil-A for some reason. I don't know.
Used to,
No,
it's
No.
Arby's
No.
for sure. It used
All right,
to
I'm
be.
sorry that I
Arby's,
missed
Dwayne's
that.
like Chick-fil-A has
Yeah.
higher standards.
Yeah. Dwayne,
Yes.
did you know this? Maybe you didn't learn it because I thought it was Chick-fil-A. Failed illustration here, but did you know that those are created to expand? Did you know that? Watch.
No, I didn't.
Here's a picture of it. This is what you're supposed to do with it so you get more ketchup in it. Because they
Oh,
understand.
you expand it before you.
Yeah, because then you get the appropriate amount of ketchup for a thing of fries.
Yeah.
So
the-
if you leave it, that's not the appropriate amount.
Right, because then you have to get three
Well,
or
it's
four
just
of them.
like, why not have more, you know?
Right, well,
That's true.
because
I
you always
used to
get three or
always carry
four.
3.
Right, now you get it all in
Just
one.
have bigger
Remember that
cups.
specifically.
Well, but that is bigger, Dwayne. It's genius. It's consolidating storage space. I like
Half
it.
the population doesn't know about it, then it's not
Well, I'm
genius.
about to listen. That's why I'm telling people about Tic Tacs today.
We are trying to inform the population.
What are they called again? Those round
Souffle.
cups.
Why are you trying to inform us about
Here's
these?
the deal. This is what I wrote in my notes. When things and people are used as they are created, it maximizes the potential of impact by the thing in person. That's what I'm trying to say. Is it maximizes the impact. Now let's take that into our personal lives. If you actually would get busy doing the things you were created to do, you would maximize your impact in this world.
It's good.
That's what I'm trying. That's the topic today. Now I know we've taken a long time, 15 minutes to get there. But hey, I'm just trying to say you can maximize your impact by figuring out why you were created. Now this is a big question. This actually can frustrate people. Lily, why do people get frustrated when oftentimes they'll go, I don't know what my why is, my purpose. I don't even know why I was created, right? You ever hear that in student ministry or adults? Why is this question so frustrating?
I think maybe it can seem daunting to people, like, how in the world will I find an answer to this? Or
Okay.
maybe they compare themselves to someone who seems to know, like, or live, like, purposefully, like, very purposefully.
There's some questions you got to ask yourselves about trying to figure out your why and your purpose, no matter your age. Because I think there's something around this topic that I'm too old to figure it out. But if you're still alive, God still has plans for you to do with you and in you. So you got to ask a question, like, to help you because it feels such a broad. I think the problem, Dwayne, in this question is it's such a broad question. What's my why and purpose? It's like it could be anything, and I'm overwhelmed. So if you are created in God's image, then let's pare down with some questions. Let's narrow the playing field for us. What breaks your heart? Okay, that's one of the first questions we should ask when trying to figure out our purpose. What is it that breaks your heart? When you see in the nightly news or you read somewhere and your heart breaks for a individual, a group of people, a thing that's lacking in the world, your heart breaks. Often that heartbreak is met with someone should do something about that. That's usually an indication that God's moving you in the direction to help solve a problem. So, Lily, I'm going to ask you the big question. When you are asked what breaks your heart, how would you answer that, which could help those at home figure out how to answer it for themselves? So what breaks your heart, Lily?
I think I would say when people try to navigate life without direction, and especially young people. So, I know that for me, when I found Jesus and started following him, I found that direction. I found that purpose that he gave me. And it breaks my heart when I see young people, especially young girls, try to navigate that in many manners that are not good for them. So that's one of them.
That's great. I like that. Okay, we're going to go to you, Dwayne, who, for those that don't remember here on our YouTube channel, that Dwayne is in transition of careers. Not transition, you've made the switch, right? Like you were once a teacher, now you work with your dad. So let me ask you, what is your why, Dwayne? As very different. Lily's works for a church, so it's like, oh yeah, that's so easy. It kind of, some would go, that's noble. But for you, Dwayne, you don't work for a church, you volunteer heavily. But for you, how would you answer that question? What is your why? And maybe you don't know your why. Let's hear from you, Dwayne.
I mean, I am kind of torn because for so long in my life, it's like, I do have a burden for the youth of the next generation and, athletes that are, putting all their dedication into, athletics and everything, but yet they get to the end of their high school career or whatever their career is. And it's like, okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. So it's like, that does break my heart. But as I'm transitioning in this, like what led me to the transition of the career is just the amount of lost people that think that they have to change their life in order to be accepted by God. They have to, that they're not good enough, that they, like the church is supposed to be a perfect place. It's like, no, it's not. Like, I mean, that's crazy. But yeah, that's kind of where kind of all of that is kind of bubbling up in me of, okay, what breaks my heart? Like, those are the answers that I have.
You couldn't have helped us better on today's topic, for real, Dwayne, with your answer of, no, my heart still breaks for the thing that originally broke, which is young athletes. But now I'm in this season where this also breaks my heart, so I'm chasing that, feeling led by Jesus to make this switch. Very interesting. I want to add more, but we will do it later. How about you, Holly? When you answer the question, a mom of 8, what is your why? And again, maybe you're like, I don't know. I just live day by day holding on to your coattails. Right? So what is it for you?
I mean, I think there's different aspects in it. I do think that when it's at the moment, I see families, just the struggle of, I don't know if it's just comparison or if they just need to feel like their kids need to be doing all of the things, or they don't feel like they could do, or they're not enough for their families. Maybe is the best way to put it. When just maybe it's part of growing through that. I don't know that I ever had this desire to have a huge family, but now that I'm in it, it's like my greatest joy is to have all of these kids. And so then becomes my greatest heartbreak is when I see families that struggle to just want to be, or think or forget that family, your family, has a purpose.
There's 4 things you need to know when it comes to this. 4, there's a whole bunch, but I'm trying to break it down to inside your why is baked these things. There is no difference in Lily's why, Dwayne's why, and Holly's why. These are baked into your why. Okay? Why you were created. Even those that are not followers of Jesus, their why, this is baked into it. Here it is. First, God did not create us because he needs us. I'll say that again. God did not create you, me, and this group of people on this planet because he needed us. He created us. Going to the book of Acts chapter 17, verse 24. The God who made the world and everything in it is not served by human hands as if he needed anything. God is not served by us. Okay, if God created us and it's not for us to, because he needed us, like, right, when Acts is saying that, he didn't create us because there was a void for him. He was lonely or something. Number 2, God chose to create us out of his great love. That's the thing that's the wow for some of you today is God loved you before he even created you. That's why he chose to create us. That is out of love. That he gets to express this love side. Now I know some people go, that sounds so soft. Man, I don't got time to go through that. But we're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 31. This is old school, Old Testament, God talking to Israel. This is where we get the big idea where God created us out of love. He says, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Long ago, the Lord said to Israel, I have loved you, my people, with an everlasting love. With an unfailing love, I have drawn you to myself. Why does God want all men and women to become followers of him? To get back in a relationship with him? Out of love. Not dictatorship, not a controlling thing. Out of love. He longs to be in a relationship with you, just like any good set of parents longs to have a healthy relationship with their children. There's something packed inside a heart of a parent that they want a good relationship, a healthy parent, right? Like I get it. We can have illustrations, well, my dad this and my mom this. I get it. We have all these illustrations that we can pull from that would go against this. No, but real healthy parents, emotionally healthy parents long for a healthy relationship with their child, not because what the child can give them, but because the love that they have to share with them. The third thing you got to know, you need to know in this whole big finding your purpose is why, is God created us to fulfill his eternal plan. That God created us to fulfill his eternal plan, his big picture plan. God is in the infinite wisdom. God in his infinite wisdom chose to make us a part of his eternal plan. The redemption story. He used us a part of that. Remember, we're trying to download to you 4 principles, 4 things for you to grab a hold on to, why you should be trying to figure out why you were created. And the 4th thing that you need to make sure you have inside you is you are strategically placed. If you call yourself a follower of Jesus, that you're strategically placed. And where I get that from, we read this on Christmas Eve's service here, and it's one of my favorites. It's one of those things that I've just held on to, just wrap my heart around this thing because it's so powerful. Author Matthew writes this in Matthew chapter 5, verse 14. You are the light of the world. This is Jesus talking to you and me. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. I want to pause there. This is Jesus saying, okay, you and me, if we call ourselves followers of Jesus, you are the light of the world. You are giving, you are shining a light to give direction to everybody else in the world, which way to go to find Christ. Jesus says, a town built on a hill cannot be hidden. When I read this, and I just ponder for a moment this idea, a town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Towns were strategically placed. You didn't just go pop up a town in the middle of the desert. That's silliness. It doesn't create anything. It's not got a longevity to it because there wasn't strategic, right? Those become ghost towns because most towns, if they're strategically placed, are going to be by a water source, a mode of transportation, probably a river of some sort, so that you can, like our twin cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis here, strategically placed because it's right on the Mississippi. And you could move resources up and down the Mississippi River. And the Mississippi River has all of these other branches of rivers that tie into it so that you can get goods, way back in the day, goods across the United States so that you, as a city, had an income. It wasn't just by accident that they began to create the city here. It was strategic. That's how I know that you, Lily, Dwayne, Holly, anybody that calls ourselves followers of Jesus, we're strategically placed where you are. So that should give us pause. Stop squirming, trying to get out of it, going, okay, I best be getting busy and getting to work. Doing what, you ask? But let's continue to read this. This will kind of foreshadow the work we're supposed to do. Neither do you light a lamp, Jesus says, and put it under a bowl. Instead, you put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify the Father in heaven. Again, going back to, man, we got to have some works that are showing our faith. And do you have those? Do your works show that you're building the kingdom of Jesus or just your kingdom? The deeds that you do, are people going, wow, I'm going to follow that individual as they follow Christ because they're going to lead me on how to do this. If that's not true of you, then make a change. Make a switch. Today, God, what's my why? What's my purpose? What do you want me to get doing? If you're strategically placed me, that means what I'm suggesting is that you're strategically placed where you are for employment, where your house is in a neighborhood, where you are going to go to lunch today. You're like, well, I made that decision. I understand that. But somehow inside your life, you begin to have planted seeds that hopefully make you where you're being led by the Lord. If the Lord, Jesus, is not your personal Lord and Savior, then no, you've been doing your own thing. It's taking my plan and laying it at the feet of Jesus. And knowing that when I get into stride with Jesus, it does not mean life is good. It doesn't mean life is exempt from tragic things. It doesn't mean life won't be hard. It actually kind of invites that. So what allows us to have confidence is the four things I just talked about. Confidence to strike out on a great adventure, on following Jesus as the Lord and Savior, to figure out our why, so that we might be able to build Jesus' kingdom. Like, this needs to be at the core of every one of us. Dwayne, what's the holdback on this now? As big foundation laid on this. What makes it so difficult for people, followers of Jesus, to do this, to lay their life at the foot of Jesus and say, use me, however, because this is a dangerous prayer, use me. What's the holdback? Why do people drag their feet in this, Dwayne?
Fear is a big thing. Fear of, I know for so many Christians, it's like, oh, I don't want to, pray this because God may send me across overseas, and, I may have to give up all my possessions and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like, okay, that could happen, sure, but like God has a need for, he's not calling everyone overseas. He's not calling everyone to do that. But we always kind of look at it that big, okay, say worst case scenario if God calls me, but.
Yeah, but I think that's the view. That's the poor view of God, that we think God's going to send us to the very place we don't want to be. But remember, God created us with a purpose, so he put in your heart a desire to be somewhere. So you think you have a desire, let's say, I'll use me. I love snow, cold, and winter. I love all those things. I love fishing. So when we were given an opportunity, hey, we're going to start a church, it was like, I know where we need to go as a family. Because in me's built this. However, I was in Miami, Florida at the time, but I knew we were called to go there. But I knew ultimately we were going to end up in Minnesota at some point, because it was deep down inside me as a little boy. It was just a long journey to get there, because God needed me to build his kingdom in Ohio, in Florida. As we traveled doing student ministry across the United States, doing student ministry, he needed to teach me and use me. You got to understand, God's doing two things all the time in us, in our lives. He's using us to be a light in the darkness, to be a city on a hill. So he's using us, and he's teaching us. So it's two things. You're either on a mission where you're at, or on a lesson. The job you could have right now, you're looking around, I don't see a mission field here very much, because you're so overwhelmed by the things you're learning. Then God's got you there to learn some things, to pack in you some skills to be able to use where you go next. And that should excite you. Because I think we want to be, for those that are old enough to know the movie The Matrix, where you could download programs straight to your brain, which would be kind of cool. That, I want to learn karate. I just download the software, and now all of a sudden I can do it. Really cool. But that's just not how it works. But we want with God, that's how it works. So no. Don't have me walk through that to learn it. Just download it to me so I don't have to walk through those lessons. But the lessons are what makes it so practical and makes it stick. So look at your life right now. Which season are you in? Are you on mission right now or in lesson? Now, there is a hybrid of this, a big hybrid where you're on mission and lessons. We're on a mission to establish a church that will outlive us 100 years plus. We want Unlock Church to be. I'm on mission, but you got to understand, on my mission, I have learned a lot. Sometimes I'm more on lesson than I am on mission, because I'm just learning a lot. That's the beauty of God. He does both. But the lessons I keep learning is what? So I can turn around and teach other people. So I can lead other people closer to God because of my experience. So it's mission and lessons, lessons and mission. God's always doing those two things. So look at your life. What season are you in right now? Helps us define our purposes. Okay, I'm in a lesson phase. I better learn this stuff.
I was going to ask you, like, I think of people all the time that might feel like they're in a lesson phase for like a substantial amount of time. What do you tell them? Learn it faster?
Man, here's the truth. Like the harsh
or
version
turn
of me,
around and actually get on mission.
I got a New Year's goal, by the way, if everyone doesn't know this. I'm just going to start being more blunt because I'm tired of like dancing around stuff. But like
Lily, Dwayne, and I look at each other like more.
Yeah. I used to be so much more blunt and matter of fact, but now I dance around and soften it for people, and it's just
I'm sure you'll go back and forth.
Yeah, I might, but like
you are very good at
right now. I'm quite just looking at going for those that would quit, give up, stop being a pansy. Like, don't tell me your problems. Everyone's got them. That's it. So don't quit. I mean, you quit, that lasts forever. You'll never know what was on the other side of it because you quit. And you always are left with the regret of, I quit. I don't know what God was going to do because you still have free will. That's the crazy bit in this is that God has plans for us and he wants you to be a part of his big kingdom missions. But if you give up and quit and become idle and stationary, because that's what the enemy wants us to do is just be idle, then God can't use you to spread the mission while you're being idle. He's like, okay, I got to find somebody else. I mean, this is what God says down to even worship. He's like, listen, if you won't worship me, the rocks will. Like an inanimate, what's the word? Inanimate object, like a rock.
He said it right.
Like how embarrassing would that be if I'm out in nature, it's just me, and I look at a sunset and it's like, man, that's awesome. I wonder what human being made that. And all of a sudden a rock cried out how awesome God was, like an audible voice. I mean, that's crazy. But that's the imagery we're getting here. Hey, if you're not going to worship God, the rocks will. If you're not going to get busy getting on, hey, God, my priority is your mission. He's going to use somebody else. Because there's some other human out there. There's another group of people that need to be reached. And if you're not going to do it, he's like, all right, next man up. And when you're ready to get in the game, I'll use you. But right now, you're over here doing your own thing. I love you. I want to use you. But I love that individual that you're not being able to reach right now because you're building your kingdom. Is that fair to say? I know that's not as harsh. I really had a harsher version to say that. But it's like...
Well, I think we often get muddled. One of the things that I was going to say why people don't really... or have a hard time figuring out what their purpose is because they can't distinguish what their kingdom is versus God's kingdom, you know? And so we talked a little bit about that last week, but I think that's where it gets stuck is it's like they're just doing their own thing and forgetting that, oh, there's a whole bigger picture to this.
Yeah, but this is across the board. It's like the enemy is tempting all kinds of people, especially Western culture. If it's not easy, if it gets hard, abort.
Bolt. Get out.
Yeah. Marriages are ending because, that was difficult, and I just didn't want to walk through that. I didn't want to have to walk through the baggage of forgiving, blah, blah, blah. It's like, stop. Just stop.
I don't like my job. I don't like the people
I'm going to quit. I'm out. My manager offended me. I'm out. Oh, this work is harder. I quit.
Well, and I mean, the bottom truth of it is like the mission, the building God's kingdom is not ever going to be easy. Because you're dealing with people.
Yeah, I mean...
people aren't easy.
But we have even parents that quit on parenting, but they wouldn't say it that way. Oh, no, I need my me time, so I just shut myself in a closet for a little bit. I remember... I often think about this, and a lot of times the way we're raised does inform the way we do parenting, and that's dangerous, because all you do is end up doing the opposite of what the other person, your parents did, and what can lead to is it's just a pendulum of just extremes. It's... oh, my parents didn't let me do anything, so I'm going to let my kids do everything. And it's like, well, that doesn't work either. And then that one child goes, well, my parents let me do everything. My life was a wreck because of that, so I'm going to be this way. So we just get this. We got to bring the pendulum somewhere in the middle where it just tick-tocks back and forth with a good rhythm. But I look at the way, my dad would come home from work. He worked at Caterpillar, and we would be home about the same time he was. And I don't remember one time in my life where my dad didn't go to his bedroom for the rest of the evening, unless he was working on a car, and hang out. He just shut the door, and I never saw him again. That was it.
It was his.
That's where he went.
Work
went off into the room. I have no idea. He was watching TV and things of that nature, and he was just gone. I remember watching that, and as an adult now in parenting, I'm like, I will not do that, because it felt like he quit on being a parent in that moment. I'm tired. Whatever. I don't know the things going on in his life. I was not privileged to that information. But what it felt like is he had given up on being the father. And when I got my own things, because when we are parents, there's no time off in that. Like what breaks my heart when it comes to parenting aspects is when parents go, I need a vacation for my kids. Mm-hmm. Do you know what you're saying to your kids? Do you know what they process that as? You don't want them. They hear that louder than I love you. I need a break from you. That is not packed in love. Could you imagine God just coming to you and say, I know you got problems in your life right now, but I need a break from you. I know I love you, but I need a break, a good solid week from talking to you. What? Where do we see God doing that to us? Why, as parents, do we think that's okay? Because of a label? Because of what we've... Come on, we got to fight through those things and go, no. There is no time off as parents. Now, you got to have healthy marriages, and I agree with those things, and you got to have date nights. That's not time off. That's taking care of your marriage so your marriage is strong, so your kids can see a good example, right? There's a whole thing here. I'm not talking extremes here.
Well, when you're saying stuff like that, there's a way to show that to your kids. There's a way to say that to them, to show them why the marriage is important, as opposed to, nope, you're the issue.
Right.
So
Western culture has said, you deserve your time. I get it. Mm-hmm. Like, I go run in, to be honest, now I take a lot of kids because they can run. And so, but I run a couple times a week by myself. I get that. Well, that could be considered your me time. Some of it, maybe. I don't view it that way. If the kids want to run, I don't ever go, no, I just need some time on my own. I don't do that. I don't think that's a personality. I think that when I look at scriptures and the family unit being the family unit, it's a unit, it's a togetherness. But I think the enemy's always trying to divide the family, separating it. And somehow we are convinced by what our society says, oh, yeah, Dad, Mom, it's cool. Slap on some headphones and get alone away. It can just be dangerous if you're doing that. What's the difference? Let me put it in extremes here, ladies and Dwayne. What's the difference in I am medicating my issues with music in a book to escape than someone going to the bottle? That's how I kind of view it. Very extreme. But what's the difference? Lil? Well, do you see a difference? Is that extreme?
I mean, I think it's extreme. I agree with you that it's extreme, but you're still choosing something over another thing. Something still gets compromised. And one could argue that one might have way more lasting issues or more immediate effects. But at the end of the day, like, if your child sees you choosing those things over them, it still affects them. It still affects them. They're still seeing you choose that. And that's just going to hurt them. So,
Dwayne, it's not a shocker that your personality is different than mine. I think everybody's gathered that when they watch this, right? It's not a newsflash, right?
Hello.
No, not a newsflash.
Okay. So when I say what I'm saying, Dwayne, right? Like, you can push back on it. You can go with sometimes I think you stay silent and just nod your head. But yeah, his eyebrow raised. But like, when I say that, am I just speaking of a personality trait of mine? Or do you think there's some truth in there that, man, as parents and as adults, just people as general, like, we got teenagers that are slapping headphones in. I had a set of parents the other day talking about their kid comes to the dinner table with headphones on and listens to music at the dinner table with the family. I was like, what? I would rip that child's ear off. Right?
I'd chuck those.
Yeah. See, we're probably not the best example, but Dwayne, okay, right? Like, how do you hear it? How do you hear those extremes? Like, even when I just said, to me, what's the difference in I need my alone time, self-medicating with a bottle? Because it would be different if somebody's telling me as a parent, I'm going to pray to find peace. What they're trying to do is find peace by listening to something, having entertainment. How do you see it, Dwayne?
I mean, as an introvert, as someone who, like, and again, I'm bringing in personalities, but like it does, like, I enjoy my music. Because one, I think when I get frustrated and when I get overwhelmed, like, putting on worship music and taking my focus off of myself and my focus off of kind of what is frustrating me or what is overwhelming me, and putting on truth, like who God says I am and who God is, like, it reminds me. And I think me personally, as a parent, it's like, I have two very different daughters, and it's like, kind of helping the one that needs the more interaction, the more, like, she needs to be around people more. Okay, hey, you know what? That's fine, but you need God more than you need people. So understanding of, hey, you need to find and develop this to where you're running to God with things and not relying on the people that's around you, because we won't always be here. And at the same time, my other daughter, who's very quiet, it's like, okay, you can't just stay isolated because the world is going to pass you by. You need to get out, and you need to be very intentional about doing different things, understanding that it's okay to recharge and to kind of get and break away and kind of have that downtime. But, you know, we're created to worship. I mean, so kind of understanding like how to be healthy about this stuff.
Oh, I like that. That's a good way to put a bow on it, Dwayne, is being healthy. I think what breaks my heart in this topic is, as I talk to adults, it always comes off as extremes of I isolate myself. It's too complicated with my kids or this, and they isolate themselves not to get healthy, but to avoid. And maybe that's a way to measure, have a metric in your own personal life, whoever we're speaking to today.
The distinction.
Yeah. Are you going to get healthy or to avoid? And if it's to avoid, then there's the problem. If it's to recharge, okay, recharge. And here's what I know about batteries, if we're using the term recharge. Every battery does take different times to recharge, the length of time, right? And that's going to be true of humans, of that you might be able to recharge faster than another. In recognizing that, hey, I do need to recharge, but you got to do it in a way that your children don't feel slighted, or what would be another way to say that, Lil, that your children don't feel what?
Well, I just think that they're second choice, you know, and the more often that you need to be recharged, well, maybe you need to creatively come up with ways. And I'm not saying you need, because it's not like I'm a parent yet. Well, I am technically, I guess. I don't really know.
You're cooking one.
But creatively come up with ways where maybe you can do it together, or, you know, maybe you can do it in a time frame that works to where they don't feel like second choice. And I think it's important to recognize they might feel like second choice more often than we realize. I think that takes humility to consider, but and my filter is coming from working with students and hearing their stories and hearing when they feel excited about what's going on at home and when they don't, and seeing the disappointment in their faces at times makes me sad. And it's just, how do we get more intentional and still recharge? Because then we're loving on our kids better when we're recharged.
Yeah, and it's great that you bring up student ministry. I think a lot of our information that feeds Holly and I in our parenting is 17 years of student ministry, thousands of kids, and watching all the differences of the parenting styles and hearing straight from the kids how they felt when their parents did this. And not saying that's going to be true of our children, but it has informed us on, there are some things that are just parenting principles that are for everyone, regardless of our personalities. And I think because of our personalities in Western culture, we have been told and convinced that our problems define us, versus God says you're not defined by your problems. I am going to teach you how to overcome those things. We need to be overcomers of those things so we aren't parenting through our problems. Because the culture we have right now, more problems, more money. Those that can give you the diagnosis of such and such things, they get you to come back and have more opportunity to make more money. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. You know, ask the people that love you the most, do you see this? This is what somebody told me. Do you see it? So that you can, I'm not saying that the counselor, therapist, a doctor is not right. I'm just saying that my spidey senses go off sometimes going, okay, let's confirm this. Do people see this in me, these tendencies that they're saying I have? And then you have this holistic view on all these things. And none of this is in my notes, Dwayne and Lily and Holly. We're just off on a tangent today.
I guess that's where it was at.
It's supposed to go, I guess. But again, and we'll end it with this. I think if you're a parent and you're trying to figure out your why, baked inside your why is your children. And until your children become 18 and live on their own, they're part of your why.
That's good.
That means they go where you serve. That's how we have viewed it in our house, is that our kids are so young, they don't know their why. They don't even know they're asking those questions. So it's like, well, our why is to start a church, plant a church, volunteer. So our kids come set up, all of them. We wake up our kids before 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. They all get dressed. We hop in a car, and they all are part of setup and then tear down. Because that's
First
our
one's
why.
there, last one's out.
Yeah, but it's part of our why. It's their why. It's baked in. So if you're volunteering at church somewhere and you have a why, bring your children along. Don't make them, because then you're teaching them what it looks like to build Jesus' kingdom. If I don't know how this looks, but like I know like Holly and I, we do our devotions in front of our kids most of the time because I want them to see it. I want them to see, not me just say I do it, but I do it right in front of them. Does it make it chaos sometimes that I'm trying to read? Does it present sometimes frustration?
I have to read verses over and over because I get distracted.
For sure. But I want the kids to see that what I speak, I'm actually doing. If they never see it, then it's just, I don't know if he actually prays or he reads his Bible because I've never seen him do it. They're getting to see how it's done. It's just, again, it's a parenting strategy you can apply. It's a great way to keep our marriage healthy because we both sit down. Whoever gets there first sits down. The other one grabs their Bible, and we sit down and start reading. It's fun right now reading the Bible through in a year, and we're reading the same plan, and we talk and ask the same questions. It's wonderful. So may your children see and know why you're doing what you're doing. Not to isolate you from your children because they're frustrating you, but because you're trying to make sure you're healthy as a parent, because healthy parents tend to make better, godly decisions in raising their kids. Okay, so this big plan of God created us, right? Remember what we had just read in Matthew chapter 4, verse 14 through 16. He says, in the same way, let your light shine before others so they may see your good deeds and glorify the Father in heaven, so they might see what you're doing, the kingdom you're building. So what part do we play in God's plan? What part do we play in God's plan? Let me answer it. We're going to start in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. Love the Lord. This is what it says there. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your strength. That's the first thing for everybody. That's part of your why. Love God with everything you got. Sell out. Sell out to God. Don't be reluctant. Let God have every area in your life. It's the best thing for you. It's the best thing for your life. You will see money back guarantee results if you sell out completely. Mm-hmm. When you do it staggering along and real slow, it's really hard to measure the growth. It's really hard to measure the successes you're having in your life. Sell out. Got everything I have, my dreams, all of yours. Then we get to Matthew chapter 22, verse 29 or 39. Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. He packs on to the Deuteronomy verse. He says, we're gonna add to. What is it? It's not a period there. What would it be? A comma? Because it's and?
Yeah. A continuation.
A continuation. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's the ground level of being on God's plan. And then as we read that last week, thank you for Dwayne bringing it up. Ephesians chapter 2, we read through that, and then we left out verse 10, but today I'm recalling 10 because we read it last week. We are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Those that call ourselves Father Jesus, there has been a plan long, long ago for your life. And now somebody's going to go, what if I miss it? No, seriously, though. It's really not that complicated. If Jesus is the Lord of your life and you're having to make a decision on should I take this promotion or not, you're going to be. If you have sold out everything and love God with your all, you're going to come and go, God, is this the wise thing for me to do? You're actually going to bring other people, hey, I've prayed about this, but hey, you're my godly friends. Does this make sense? Then you're going to look at the whole body of work that you have taken, put together, and studied, and ask people and go, okay, God, this doesn't seem wise. I'm saying no to it. Though earthly wise, it makes complete sense because I get a lot of money. But it doesn't seem right. I'm not doing it. That is done right. But what a lot of times happens is the enemy tempts us to build our kingdom. It's so easily we get our eyes off of Jesus and onto the earthly thing. Oh, I can get a lot of money here. This makes sense financially. This is how I'm going to figure out this problem. Sometimes the problems you're facing doesn't have an immediate solution. Sometimes you know what your big plan is. You know, Dwayne, where I hear you say, no, I feel God has put in my heart young athletes. And now all intents and purposes, what you're doing currently, you can't get much further from high school athletics, right?
No, I can't.
Like, I'm not trying to discourage you, but like if somebody's watching your story, it's like, okay. And you said it earlier, fear can creep in and destroy our wanting to go. And we got a great video here that kind of talks about, hey, what's it look like this year if you begin to let fear set aside? So as we're going to give you a second, these videos we put in here for a pause, for you to think and ponder. God, what are you saying to me? What do you want to say to me? And so we've got Fearless in the New Year is the name of a video we're going to play here. This is for you to ponder while you watch it, okay? Enjoy this. We'll be right back.
It's a new year filled with new unknowns. We're coming off yet another season of uncertainty. A year, if we're honest, filled lots of us with fear. We've allowed our eyes to drift and wander. So God, as we head into this year, fill our eyes with wonder. May we focus on the things that you care about, not on our shoelaces. Remind us of Hebrews 13:6. The Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me? So with Jesus interceding for us, what can come against us? When his joy comes new every morning, what is left for sadness to claim? If nothing can separate us from your love, then what room does hatred have to take hold? When you make known to us the path of life, how can we ever lose our way? If you uphold us with your righteous right hand, how can we be afraid of falling? God, we commit to lay our plans at your feet once again, for you know the plans you have for us. So as we go into this new year, we will focus on you, God, because what can man, or our careers, our schools, our families, our thoughts, our doubts, our fears, our insecurities, what can any of these things do to us? Nothing, because our trust, our faith, and our hope are in you, God.
That's so good. Like, there's so many more verses in there. I hope you wrote it down. Great thing about being on YouTube is you can just rewind it, pause it, write down the references, because sometimes in the journey of us figuring out why, we need to be encouraged to keep going, to not give up. So the question is, what part do we play in God's plan? Massive. What's the number one thing we're going to do is we're going to give our lives 100% to God, everything we are to him, because that's where you're going to see the most success in and through your life. 2, we're going to love our neighbors. Everyone in this world, we're going to love like God loves. And 3, we are going to spend our lives spreading the kingdom of Jesus. We're going to invite people in a relationship with Jesus. That's at the core roots. That is at the core of human. If you call yourself a human, it's to spread the good news. But we get lost in building my kingdom. And I know you're going to go, well, it's so easy for you to say. You're a pastor. You're just... No, do you know how many times I want to quit in what I'm doing? Sometimes I am overwhelmed. Sometimes I don't know what to do. God, you've called us to Minnesota, and this is the picture I have what it's going to look like. And the picture right now isn't matching what I see or how you called us here. We are far from that. I don't understand how we're going to get there. And maybe you have a calling in your life. You know what kind of parent you're supposed to be. You're like, I don't get it yet. My teenagers are ruthless. I cannot keep going. I'm so far from the picture God has downloaded to me. You have been duped to think that the pictures God's downloaded in your whys and your whats and your purposes is instant. It's called a lifetime. It takes time to get there. You are on mission at times and on lessons at a time. Perhaps the most important part we play in God's eternal plan is to point people to eternal life with God through his son, Jesus Christ. If we're not doing that, we're already off on what we're doing. If you have a why and that's not baked into it, we're already off. I want to help. Let's say it's this. I want to help people, like young kids in the foster situations, the foster system. I want to help. And it's just simply to rescue kids. Very noble. But it isn't to point them to Jesus. We're off. It needs to, I want to help the system point these kids to Jesus. That their hope is not in a system. That their hope is in Jesus and Jesus alone.
That's good.
So, what breaks your heart needs to involve people. If what breaks your heart is that there's not enough Red Bull for the world, right? You see what I'm saying? It's got to be, people need to be what's breaking your heart. Not a what. It's a who. So who is breaking your heart? Who? Because that's where your why lies. And because of the who, you might do a few whats. If it's an orphan, you might build a different orphanage where there's chapel going on throughout the day in the orphanage because you have a heart to connect orphanages with Jesus first and then parents. Think about that. You're going to help the child be a better child with kingdom principles so that when that child goes into a new home, they make that home better and they're an ambassador for Christ in there. See how this plays out. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to end with a story. It's a very prominent story in the Old Testament. Reading through the Bible throughout the year, you spend a great deal of time with Joseph. Joseph has had plays made after him. I don't know. We were talking in the house. Don't know why Joseph's never had a movie. You got the play,
because there'd be like 8 of them.
8 movies?
There's like so many different things. Like you got to cover all the things.
You could pare this down. His story is tremendous. If I'm going to make a movie, any biblical character is David.
Yes.
It would be awesome.
Yeah.
Joseph, though, is
close second.
I don't know. It's a good story. Maybe it is close second, but it's wild. So the story is in Genesis 37. Okay, you should really read your Bible. You should read this story because we're gonna paraphrase this down to a couple seconds here. We're gonna read from Joseph chapter 37, verse
Genesis.
5. Genesis.
We're reading about Joseph in Genesis.
Thank you. So Genesis chapter 37, verse 5. Thank you, Holly, for the correction. One night, Joseph had a dream. And when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. Listen to this dream, he said. We were out in the fields tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly, my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed down low before mine. His brothers responded, you think you will be our king, do you? Do you actually think you will reign over us? And they hated him all the more because of his dream, and they talked about him. Soon, Joseph had another dream, and again, he told his brothers about it. Listen, I had another dream, he said. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me. This time, he told the dream to his father as well, as his father, to his father, as well as to his brothers. But his father scolded him. What kind of dream is that, he asked. Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you? While his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. Soon after, Joseph's brothers went to pasture. There's a big setup. The series we're in this last couple of weeks is I'm doing it right this year. And packed into that is some of the doing it right is you're going to find out your why and your purpose, because that's what's going to set your goals this year. That's what's going to make you make your life better, because, oh man, God's got this big call in my life I want to be around for, so I'm going to get fit. Right? If we're just getting fit because I want to look a certain way in the mirror, that only lasts so long, because then Chick-fil-A calls your name, you're like, yeah, I don't see a big adjustment in the mirror, right? But if it's like, no, longevity, it's Christian food, so Chick-fil-A's not so bad. I'll avoid
I think we
McDonald's.
need to get Chick-fil-A.
Polar calories.
I'm just kidding.
Holy calories, yes. Thank you, Dwayne, for that one. I've not heard that one before. That's great. Holy calories. So, when we know our whys and purposes, we begin to craft principles in our life and then goals that help feed where we're trying to go. So, Joseph has this legitimate dream. He's like, hey, you guys are all going to bow before me, which, if one of my sisters came to me, my youngest sister, let's say, she came to me and said she had this dream that I was going to bow down in front of her, it probably would be met with hostility. Just being honest, at a young age, because they're all teenagers around here, 20-something, and he's one of the younger at the time. I'm probably not going, oh, cool. I love this idea. I'm probably going to burn more of her Barbies, okay? I'm just being honest, like, right? It's not going to be met with a lot of, like, woo, let's throw a party. Well, that's what his brothers do. They get really angry at him. They beat him up because Joseph's dad sends Joseph to the pasture to check on his brothers. He goes out there. The brothers see him come. They beat him up. They throw him in a ditch. And then one of the brothers like, I don't want to be responsible for his death. Let's sell him to these slave traders over here. Let's make some money. We'll tell dad he got eaten by a lion. And then, we don't have the guilt of death on us. So that's what they do. They sell his brother into slavery, and he's gone. Like, boom, wash their hands, go back to dad. After weeks of being in pasture, they didn't hurry back. They brought back a coat and said, hey, look at all this blood on here. He was eaten by a lion, I guess. Sorry about that. You lost your youngest boy. His dad's really sad. Boys, hey, we won, and moving on. But the story with Joseph, I got to give you, like, this is the indicator. This is where we can pull encouragement. Joseph is 17 years old. 17 years old when he is beaten up and sold into slavery. A teenager, but has a why and a what and a purpose. He's like, hey, somehow or another, my brothers and my dad are going to bow down at me as if I'm a king. You can't get much further away from being a king in that day than being a slave. But we never read in the Joseph story where Joseph is disheartened and disgruntled about God. What are you doing? Why have you put me out here? Never does Joseph speak poorly. He only speaks highly of God, that God is up to something. I don't know what it is. It's true of your life and my life and Holly's and Lily's life and Dwayne's life. I don't know what God's up to all the time, but I know he's at work. I'm going to stay the course because I want to see what happens. How's this play out? And so at 17 years old, he's beaten up his brothers, thrown into a ditch to die, sold into slavery, put in charge of everything from his master he was a slave at, but his master was like, dang, you possess some unique skills. Let's put you into this spot here. Let's make you a part of the running this property. And so he was over everything but his master and his master's wife. So he's put in charge of everything. The master's wife then accuses him of raping her. He runs from it. It's an accusation. It's all lies. Then he was put into jail/dungeon. And dungeons of that day were nasty, no light. It was very damp. It was gross. I mean, I don't know how you picture this stuff, but it's legitimately a place where you go and lose your mind. Chained to a wall, probably. You're not eating the best. Put into the dungeon. A couple years later, a cupbearer and a baker of Pharaoh comes into jail because they were morons, apparently. They have dreams, and they're like, what do these dreams mean? And Joseph says, and I should have pulled it out. Joseph says, I cannot interpret the dreams, but my God can. And that to me is very compelling in the Joseph story. Never once in his story was he about building his kingdom. He didn't say, I can do it. He said, my God can interpret the dream. So powerful to give credit in the journeys of our whys and whats and purposes that if you want to know if you're genuinely building God's kingdom, you're always pointing back to him. Did you find it, Lil? I can see you looking it up.
Yeah, my version says, do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me.
Who's saying that?
Joseph.
Right. So she has the ESV. Mm-hmm. Where is that reference? Maybe Dwayne can read it for us.
40 verse 8.
Dwayne, can you look that?
Can you look it up, Dwayne? It says they said to him, and they said to him, we have had dreams, and there is no one to interpret them. And Joseph said to him, do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me. I think that's the same verse, but
yeah, that's it. It's just he wrote ESV, so it's a little bit different. Maybe how you can pull it in NIV or NLT. Dwayne, did you find it?
Which verse was it?
44. Oh no, sorry, 40 verse 8.
There you go.
40 verse 8. Okay. We had dreams, they said to him, but there is no one to interpret them. Then Joseph said to them, don't interpret. Interpretations belong to God. Tell me your dreams.
Similar.
Okay, so I think exactly what you're looking for. Those are similar verses. Mine says something along the lines, but in chapter 41, verse 15, Pharaoh says to Joseph,
the second time.
This is Pharaoh, not the cupbearer.
So hold on. Before we get to that, because that's really good. He gives credit to God. He doesn't say, I'm great. He's like, no, interpretations come from God. So let's check in with God. I think those are great indications of whose kingdom you're building. If it is about how good you are, right? And at this point, you're looking at, okay, I've been in the dungeon for some time here. This could be my way out. So I will puff myself up. And he doesn't. Just reveals a lot of the character of Joseph. And so he says they come from God, interprets their 2 dreams. And it was like, hey, in the next 3 days, cupbearer, you're going to be reestablished in your position. Baker, in 3 days, you're going to be impaled. And they come to life. Like, it was wild. And what the cupbearer said, and the baker said to Joseph when they were brought out of prison, Joseph said, don't forget about me. Don't forget about me when you get out. But 2 years go by now from the interpretation of those 2 individuals' dreams to what Holly's about to read, because Pharaoh has a dream. And none of his magicians can interpret it. And so all of a sudden the cupbearer, who was reinstated into his position 2 years later, goes, hey, I remember a guy in the prison that interpreted these 2 dreams, and they came real.
Word for word.
Word for word. Let's bring him back. And so they go to the dungeon. They clean him all up. They shave him, which gives you an indication his hair, his beard, everything was unruly. Clean him up and present him in front of Pharaoh, which then what Holly reads in 41 is so powerful.
This is 41:15. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream and no one can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. Verse 16, I cannot do it, Joseph replied to Pharaoh, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. So he's just immediately saying,
credit goes to God.
And then he goes on and interprets it.
Which is a great form of worship. That my success, no matter how big it is, that God has established it. It's not what I've done. It's God has allowed it to be. Just super, super powerful. Now, between where he got thrown in the ditch and where we just were talking, 13 years has gone by. Whew, 13 years. How many, come on. Most of us quit and give up. 13 years go by. He was 17 years old. That puts him around 30 years old. He's still nowhere closer to his brothers bowing down to him. He's in Egypt, and his brothers and his father are in Canaan, he believes, because that's where he came from. So he's so far from them. He's days and days of travel from his brothers, his family. So it's like, how's this even going to be? 13 years have gone by. All of a sudden, because he is able to interpret the dream for Pharaoh, Pharaoh says, you're going to be second command in this thing. Only I will be more powerful than you in Egypt. You're going to be over all of my land. May you make sure we're good for when the famine comes, you're in charge. So he's all of a sudden becomes a high-ranking official in Egypt. He's a foreigner there. He didn't see this coming down. This isn't how he would have wrote it. The famine, so 7 years of good happened, where that was part of the dream. You're going to have 7 years of great, plentiful harvest and wonderful. Then after 7 years of good, you're going to have 7 years of bad. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, hey, somebody needs to be put in charge to make sure in the 7 years of bad, we are set up for success, that we have enough stuff. And Pharaoh goes, you're the guy. You're going to do it. And he does it. So by the time by the time Joseph is 40 years old, 2 years into the 7 years of the bad, Joseph's family shows up to get grain because they heard that in Egypt there were grain that could be purchased. And where they were, the food had run out. And they were going to travel the days and days of travel to Egypt. And this is where we see the what, the why, and the purpose of Joseph come to fruition. But it took, years. How many years is that? We got 13, we got 23 years. 23 years to get to where he knew what he was going to do. Do you have the ability, if God drops something in your heart today, to stay at it for 23 years? Just get to the point. Just to get to the point where you see what he's laid on your heart to come to fruition. Most of us tap out if it's not done. Why you quit on your goals is because you don't see the progress in day 3, 4, 5. Oh, I haven't lost any weight. Sometimes weight loss takes months before it kicks in. You're redoing the metabolism of your body, but we give up. We sell out.
But don't you think,
Yes.
reading through this, like, we so oftentimes want to get to that end point. I think us as a Western society, like TV, we have this movie and it builds up to this very climactic point, and at that point it's like that's the purpose, that's the why. It's like, I feel like, honestly, like Joseph here he's being faithful and he's being obedient and he's worshiping God and just being available. Like, he's going throughout his daily life of, hey, I don't know what God has for me today, but I'm going to do it with excellence. I'm going to worship him, and I want to love him. And then God really directs the rest of that. It's just Joseph's faithfulness to be a vessel for God to use. And I think that's why we often give up, is because we think of, the end result is where we're supposed to be. It's like, no. God's called you today to do this. He's put this on your plate today. So be faithful today. Yeah. And then the rest will take care of itself.
Well, Dwayne, as you're talking, and going back to what we just read about Joseph, where he was spreading the good news. Now, it wasn't good news yet because Jesus hadn't come, but he's talking about God. He wasn't shy being a foreigner in another land. He was still doing what we've been reading on his big why. He knew during that journey, he was to talk about God and point people to God all along the way. He didn't shy away from, hey, I'm going to give God credit. He wasn't, if there was a God, I wouldn't be in this dungeon for the last 10 years. I wouldn't have been sold in slavery. He is not at once disgruntled. He's going, well, God has a plan. I wonder what that is. And while I'm figuring that out, while he's developing that, I'm going to spread the news about the one true God.
And we don't read anything in this. I remember when we just read this a few days ago, you never read about Joseph complaining or like, oh my gosh. And you don't even read about him going to Potiphar and saying, hey, all of these things happened to me and I didn't have a choice on any of them. Could you just give me the promotion just because I've had it hard? You don't read anything like that.
He earned his promotion.
He earned every bit of it. And so it's just so challenging there's so many things that we don't get to control in situations in our day-to-day life, but in everything we can point back to God and we can point back to what Jesus has done. And then we just don't know that impact, and we just keep doing that and stay faithful, the doors that it opens.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even Joseph. We don't hear anything about him going around, hey, Pharaoh, I had this dream that my brothers are going to bow down. So can you put me in position so that can happen? Nope. It was just like, hey, this is...
Yeah, like protecting himself.
Yeah, what I had. And then it was like a light bulb. When it all kind of came true, it was like,
But think about the day Joseph wakes up and his brother's bowing down to him. It's a normal day for Joseph. He was always, at that point, 2 years in the famine, he was making deals with people to get the grain. And so here comes in a group of boys, adults now, they're in their 40s as well, probably 50, coming in and just coming to get grain like everybody else. And he had no idea this was going to be the moment that when he was 15 years old, God had downloaded to him. And I resonate a lot, and that's a churchy word, I suppose, but to the story of Joseph, because I look at Unlocked Church. Unlocked Church still isn't where I have the vision God put into my life when we moved here. And can I be frustrated going, God, why isn't it growing bigger than I thought? Because it's not big to be big. Bigger means bigger impact. But we're going to be faithful with what we got. We're not going to complain and go, oh, poor me, God, you don't love me, you forgot about. No, it's like, okay, God, what are you up to? We're not waiting to be big to do things. We're doing it right now. We're making an impact. We're pouring in people's lives, praying more. If anything, that the slow growth of Unlocked Church has made me pray more this year. And so you can see God brings things into our lives to what? Build lessons into our lives where we learn to be a better follower of his, which then makes us a better on mission individual. Because then when there's success, oh, look at what I did, and we beat our chest. No, look at what God has done. That's what the goal. What good is it if you can do something great and you don't give credit to God? Right? We see it all the time. Now, again, there's a ton of Psalms. As we've been reading through the daily readings, you read Psalms with this. And right now we've got a season. The Psalms 1 through 10 is a lot of like, why are the evil people succeeding and things of that nature? Listen, those are going to happen. People that don't have Jesus principles in their life, they're going to succeed. That's just the way it is in life. But they'll never be fulfilled. We know that. But you're going to look at them and go, oh man, they got more money. Your eyes are fixed on the wrong thing again. It's just, and I could go into that, but we got a lot of more thoughts to say as we wrap this thing up. So in chapter 45 of Genesis, verse 3, this is where Joseph reveals to his brothers, I am Joseph, he said to his brothers. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing here in front of them. Please come closer, he said to them. So they came closer. And he said again, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But do not be upset and do not be angry with yourself for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravaged the lands for 2 years will last 5 more years, and there will be neither plowing or harvesting. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and preserve many survivors. What? Like, come on. A great story would be, off with their heads. Vengeance. To get even with them. And he doesn't. He responds, he can see what God was doing. That the whole thing that was set off in motion that seems so doom and gloom and bad was a setup. That's where I always say every setback really is a setup for God to do something. Because I see here, it's not hard to conclude that Joseph being sold into slavery was a setback. But that was the setup for 20-some years for this moment. So if you got some setbacks in your life and you don't know why it came about, and it wasn't because you made some bad decisions, right? You got to make sure you're looking at your own life going, did I make a bad decision here? Did I financially do something stupid and that's why this is a setback? That you created. But if these are things that are beyond your control and you're going, okay, well, the setbacks are set up for God to show up and show off so that he might get the credit. And then we go fast forward 5 more chapters in Genesis chapter 5. I'm telling you, we buzzed through this. There's so much more things happening here. This is the heartbeat of Joseph. In Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. You intended to harm me. This is Joseph talking to his brothers. But God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people. If that doesn't give you the oomph to go find your why, your what? Because when you're on track to find your why, on the path to finding that, you will have the same thing. So I could save many of people. You might not even know how many people. Joseph doesn't even know how many when he says it, but he's easily going, oh, I've been strategically placed here in this position in Egypt to keep people from dying from starvation. Your why, your what's worth fighting for, finding, and chasing, because you will be a strategic individual placed along other people's lives as long as you continue to point them to Jesus. May the new year be. May you do this right wherever you go, whatever you do. If it's a doctor's appointment, a car, an oil change appointment, getting new shoes, whatever you do. May you look at those moments as I am on mission to point these people to God. I will not be ashamed of who God is. I am going to give God credit, and I'm going to talk about God. And at the end of the day, invite people to church. Like, you want to be a part of something building Jesus' kingdom forever? Build a church. Churches outlive all of us, but the impact is generations to come. We stand on the shoulders, Lily does, and Holly and I do, Dwayne does, of churches. Because somebody felt led by God to go start a church. And because they started the church, Dwayne went into that church service. Lily did, and I did, and Holly did. All different times in different churches. For those moments where God's like, this is destiny for Scott, Lily, Holly, Dwayne, and for you. So may you be a part of somebody else's spiritual destiny. Invite them into church. Invite them into a relationship with Jesus. Because ultimately that is built in the DNA of every follower of Jesus. I hope this inspires you. I hope this gets you all off your seat. I hope you don't just go, this is, you're supposed to say, no, I really believe this, and here's all the proof to it. With Genesis readings today, Old Testament, Joseph's life, you get to see it. Man, powerful.
Good.
Powerful if application comes into it. Dwayne, you do really good at closing thoughts on this. You have any ending closing thoughts on this entire journey we've had today over the last hour in a few minutes? Can you tie a good bow on it for us?
Yeah, I mean, I would think that, this is the time of season. This is the time of year everyone is trying to figure out their why, their what, or maybe, this is a couple weeks into the new year and it's like, okay, I've given up on those goals. Okay, what is it going to take for me to actually stick with the goal? Like, if you're just creating goals without understanding your why or your what, then you're never going to be fulfilled. My favorite verse is Matthew 6:33. Is first seek the kingdom of God, His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. And this is a reference to like the cure for anxiety, which is something that our culture, our society is missing something, and what they're missing is Jesus, and they're trying to do things like, let's have a positive outlook on it. They're trying to do things for good, but if you're not including Jesus in what you're doing, and if you're not searching and you're not trying to build His kingdom, then you're never going to find fulfillment without Jesus. So Joseph did that, and his life, you can see that it took ups and downs and turns, and not the way that I imagine how he would hoped it would have worked, but he was just obedient and he was faithful in serving God, and God worked everything out for His glory. Yeah.
That's good, Dwayne. I told you you're really good at putting a little bow on it. Thank you for doing that. Lily, would you with your tabbed Bible over there, will you pray for us?
Yes, let's do it. God, thank you so much for this message today and just the ability to kind of slow down and talk about what on earth are we here for? And God, I thank you that it's the same for all of us, that it really is to spread your news about what Jesus did for us. It's to inspire others, to point people to you, to ultimately live lives for you and get to glorify you. Thank you that it is different because of what each of us do with our lives. We get to impact different people. We get to come into rooms and environments with different people. And so, God, I just pray that we're faithful with those opportunities. I pray that we start where we're at. And I just pray that if we're on mission or we're on lesson, God, that we're faithful to those things. Thank you for the example of Joseph and his story. God, may we have patience through the endurance of this time and know that we are making big impacts and big strides for your kingdom. And for those who need to get started, God, I just pray that you give them creativity. For those parents who are challenged today, I just pray that you give them opportunities to make changes and make them lasting. Jesus, we love you and we thank you for just the ability to be on this platform. Thank you for those that watch today, those that will watch. And may you do a great work in all of us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Good prayer, Lil. That was good. Not that other prayers you've prayed have not been. That was exceptional.
It was a good morning.
It was a good morning. Hey, thank you, everybody, joining with us. We love being on this platform to be able to, again, we're here to spread the gospel. That's it. We're not trying to get famous. We're not trying, we genuinely want to spread the gospel. And one of the coolest opportunities is there's billions of people daily on YouTube. If we can figure out how to keep doing this and grow in this, we'll be able to spread the gospel in a big, big way. That said, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps us grow and be able to be a part of the algorithm that says, oh, this channel's growing, and they'll present this in other people's feeds. Also, if you want to partner with Unlock Church and give part of your tithes and offerings to Unlock Church, we make it super easy here. You can text the number 77977. It's on your screen right there, and text the word unlock. And when you do that, those resources do come directly to Unlock Church, and we use that to see needs and meet needs. Recently, we as a elders team met together, and we are sending resources out to California to be able to help in those fires that we're praying for them, but we also are coming along saying, hey, we're going to send resources so that they can continue to fight the good fights out there and be able to be a part of that. Next week, we'll tell you the names of the organizations that we've done that with. This week, you just need to know resources are being sent, okay? Also, we have some upcoming things that you should be made aware of. What's the first thing, Lily, that everybody here should be known for, or made to know what's happening?
Where to go?
No.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, what's the first event?
Okay. The chili cook-off?
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, because it's the first one up. Okay, so if you're local, come and join us. But if you're not local, we are challenging you to freeze
dry.
Not freeze dry. Freeze that chili, get it in some type of dry ice box and ship it to us, and we'll heat it up for you. We'll make sure it tastes good. Like, we'll make sure it's perfect.
Come on,
like,
Dan and Jen.
We'll honor the work you put in.
Well,
we just think that'd be fun.
Dan and Jen.
You could just come for that weekend.
You
and
could.
make your chili
Well,
here.
That's one expensive chili cook-off. Because there's no money for the winner. You just get
there's a whole lot of glory.
glory.
It's a
yes.
lot of glory, which, tread lightly.
Dwayne, are you going to make a chili and mail it?
We'll see. Like,
Don't commit to that.
that's what I was thinking. Is like I need to get on and like research. Okay, what
Dry
has
ice.
to happen in order to do that? Like,
Sending
it
food.
sounds intimidating. It sounds
It
awesome
does?
right now. It
But
does.
it's
Okay,
not
here's what-
impossible.
here's what I'm
impossible.
gonna
I have a million
Not
ideas of
impossible.
how this can be
Hey,
done.
here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. If this is going to happen, we are going to test this out. We will mail you a chili this week, Dwayne. And then next week when we film,
Holy.
you'll talk about the said chili that
And when he says
Honestly-
we, what are you meaning?
Honestly, it's cold enough to just put it in ice, like somehow.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean,
I feel like it's cold enough.
we're
There's
going to figure it out so that we can give everyone instructions how to do this. And Dwayne will tell us that it
Shake
works.
my
Don't forget,
head.
Holly.
Shake my head.
Don't
Yeah.
forget- Put it
No,
write it down.
no, it's a Lily, Holly, and me thing.
Right, I'll help her.
in
not
that
forget.
order.
She's probably gonna make it.
Did you catch
though.
the order?
Yeah.
Lily, Holly,
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
You're first in charge.
We got more.
Okay.
We got more.
Then we have some save the dates.
Yeah, so we are going on mission to Arkansas this May.
Woo!
Super excited. So save the dates and start planning. We'd love for you to join us because we are traveling there. So that means you can also travel there. May 12th through the 18th, we'll be serving the Great Passion Play and a one-wheel race called Dirt Surfers. It's a really fun and unique week where we get to serve two different organizations, two different groups of people, and really be on mission, kind of like we talked about today.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Really great opportunity.
It's a great opportunity. We love being a part of that. There will be a cost to it. We are still working with Great Passion Play to see what the cost will be. There is a new jersey that's coming out this year for all of us to be able to wear, which we're excited to debut that soon. That will be part of that. The room and food is all included into that price as well. The food has been great. It's a fun time to come together, and so don't miss that. We also have another mission trip happening in the fall, and that is Windman that you don't want to miss either. The dates of that is September.
I think it's 19th through the 21st.
So you can save the date of that, okay?
Yeah.
We're trying to get you ahead of time on this. We have camp dates that you need to save
Yeah.
the dates for. We have kids and high school, middle school camp, which the dates are what, Lil?
So for our kids camp, which is, that's the right one. It's June 16th through 20th, and that'll be here in the Twin Cities area. So if you have kids, Dwayne and your family came up last year, which was super fun. They volunteered, their kids participated. One of them volunteered, which was awesome. So save the day for that. Come out for that. It's really fun. We do a free camp for kids, and people show up because it's free. And then also we have our middle school, high school camp, which is happening in July. It'll be July 14th through the 18th. And we have the cost on there for you guys already. So save those dates. Like, we know Jen and Dan, your family has come up for that, and we would love to see you again. And if you're hearing this for the first time and feel like this is an opportunity for you to serve, we hope you'll make that jump.
There you go. We're trying to give everybody, pack the schedule, not full, but you know what's happening so you don't miss anything about it. And so there's more things we got coming. Obviously, we have Easter and Palm Sunday. Those would be great Sundays to jump in. But this church is on mission to spread the gospel and disciple the church we have. So we're excited about it. Banter on with you. And I look over our clock that's speeding up on how long this is.
Wow.
It's an hour and 37 minutes.
It's long.
You know that's going to happen. We're going to cut out where Lily announced she was pregnant. No one's going to know.
Well, really, I'm not more concerned, but like we did these upcoming events that people were going to want to know, and if they log off early, they'll miss them. So maybe we could put those at the beginning.
Maybe.
Guess we'll find out.
Hey, how about you scream,
If you
I'm
logged
pregnant
off
really quick.
already?
Put Lily on.
How rude.
Put Lily on and you just scream it.
I'm pregnant.
That's great. We're going to use that as a segue into the service right there. It'll be right as a countdown.
So cute.
True or false? I'm going to put true or false on the screen.
True or false?
Yeah.
That's great. I
Pregnant
love
with the vision. Lily's pregnant with the vision. That's what it is.
I have a vision of a baby.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Pain.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
What
kidding.
a-
I'm kidding.
What-
It will be.
What are you? Okay, let's go around the
Oh
room
my
really quick. It's
God.
50-50.
This is an hour and 75 minutes.
Get out of here. I'm starving too.
I'm also so hungry.
Yeah, Lily,
I took a
Dwayne.
bite of something. I mean,
Dwayne. Here's Lily.
I was
Have you
getting
ever seen
dizzy.
Twilight? You have.
have.
Okay. You know the scene in like episode 3 where
you. I know what
she's
you're talking about.
pregnant and like the baby's eating her from the inside out?
No, I
And
don't
Bella's
remember
like
that off
getting really
the top of my head.
thin. She's
She's
dying
literally
because
dying.
she's got a werewolf
Right.
inside her.
I was being dramatic and I said sometimes I feel
No,
like
she
that.
hasn't a werewolf. She
vampire.
is
when
a
I
vampire.
don't eat,
It's a
when I don't
vampire.
eat enough.
Vampire, sorry. Yeah, so Lily
correlated
comes
it.
in the office. You know what I feel like every day when I feel like
Bella.
Bella
I
from
said on
the baby's
Sundays.
killing me from the inside out.
My word.
Some Sundays I feel it more because I don't eat enough in the morning because we have to get there so early.
Oh my
Eat, girl,
goodness.
eat.
I just don't
Yeah.
even know. I don't even know what to do with that anymore. It's like I can't help you.
I gotta eat more.
Okay. That's the life we got around here.
Lay off the Twilight book.
Signing
Everybody.
off.
We'll lay off the Twilight books. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Lily, say goodbye to everybody.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
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 Oh my god.
That was awkward and weird. Love you all. See ya.
Bye.